Once again, good evening, all of you. Today, we have a very special guest here. He is Mr. Nilanga Abeysinghe. If I briefly say about this personality, he is working as a senior lecturer at School of Psychology in University of Slit, Malabar. And also, if I am explaining about his experience, he has 15 years of experience in this field. It means in the psychology as an academic and also a practitioner. Then the other thing is nowadays he's learning as a PhD research scholar at University of Colombo. The other thing is he has a very good experience in psychology, the area of psychology, and he's practically engaged in most of the areas relevant to the psychology. So I think as a very special guest today, then his support and also his contribution will be a very supportive to understand the things faced by the students as undergraduate, and also the people who are available here when they are experiencing different kind of difficulties in the day-to-day life. So I think, sir, now it's over to you, sir. Let's start the session.
Thank you, Dinidu. Thanks for that introduction, and hello to all. I don't know about y'all. I'm in the middle of a power cut, so I hope the lighting is some rather okay, and let's hope that it'll continue to be so. All right, I can share screens. I know y'all have had a long day of lectures and must be quite tired by the end of the day, but I'm glad to see so many of you joining when there are so many other things you could probably be doing in an evening. So let's try to make the best out of the next 50 minutes or so, and then we'll try to answer some of the questions in case if you have any. But if you feel like asking any questions, or if you feel like sharing any of your thoughts, ideas, please feel free to do so. Okay, let me share the screen in full. All right, so what is the role of emotional intelligence in these current times? We can say they're critical, but I mean, if you look at the entire world history, the entire world history, even Sri Lankan history, this is still one of the best times that you will be living in. I mean, I used to tell this even in the midst of COVID-19. I mean, you can complain as to how bad things are or how horrible things are. But when you really think of the people who lived 100 years ago or 50 years ago, people in the 70s, 80s, maybe they were not living in a country who, I mean, that could not pay its debts, or maybe in a country that did not have long queues, but they definitely lived in a country that did not have internet. They definitely lived in a country that communication and connectivity was not this easy. And connecting with people means a lot to me, definitely, and I hope it is the case for most of you also. This is something that I clearly see among my students at SLIT, and also even at the University of Colombo, at undergraduate level, at postgraduate level. The scenario remains the same. We want to be connected. And irrespective of how critical the times are, let's start off with the note that we are sort of living in one of the best times in the known human history. Well, of course, we won't talk about the prehistoric ages that probably were good. We can have another discussion. Once again, thanks for that introduction about, you gave about me. So I am from the School of Psychology, SLIT, and I mainly work as a psychology lecturer, a scholar, and a counselor. So my idea or my take on emotional intelligence comes from that background. But let's also talk about some practicalities when it comes to surviving and thriving in the modern day or the current context. So this word, emotional intelligence, was mainly coined or introduced by someone called Daniel Goleman. But he says, we are being judged by a new yardstick, not just how smart we are or by our training and expertise, but also how well we handle ourselves and each other. So it's about relationships there. And then it's also about a way of challenging a traditional yardstick, the yardstick that brought most of you to university education, or most of us to university education. What we know as IQ. Let's get to that. But why has this yardstick changed? And of course, there you can have criticisms. Definitely, as a psychologist, I have my own criticisms about the concept of emotional intelligence itself, mainly with its definition. However, keeping this in mind about the importance to handle ourselves and each other, let's imagine a world your lecturers, your fellow classmates were all like Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. I hope most of you are familiar with Big Bang Theory, which used to run for almost a decade, I guess, maybe, I don't know, maybe more than that. So everyone thinks that they are the best. If each and every one of us think, okay, I am the best, and if I'm not willing to listen to anyone else, and if I cannot relate to other people, if I'm struggling with understanding other people, then that's going to be a tough classroom to live in. That'll be a tough university to live in. That'll be a tough country or village or a system to live in. So just as I said, well, we are living in one of the best times in the known human history, let's also be glad we are not living amongst too many Sheldon Coopers. We are not living in a world where everyone thinks, where everyone's intellectual ability becomes more prominent as opposed to the ability to relate to one another. So, talking about Sheldon, what is intelligence? Any takes, guys? Anyone wants to pitch in to say as to what is intelligence? Okay, let's not make ourselves uncomfortable. So this refers to the different higher mental processes, the intellectual functions we have, how we think, calculate, write, make rational decisions, solve problems. All these things are referred to as intellectual functions and becomes part of what we measure or evaluate as one's intelligence. And hopefully all of you must have taken an intelligence test at some point. maybe in English, maybe in Sinhala, maybe in Tamil. In different languages, we can take an intelligence test and it will give you something called an IQ, intelligence quotient, which is a number that tells, okay, that allows us to compare. And below a certain level of intelligence, IQ, you would say that this person is probably having a learning disability or mental retardation as the diagnosis goes. That's below 70. Then you get people in their 120s to 140s, where most of you will definitely fall into. Around 30s, where someone will be able to enter into a Sri Lankan university or university anywhere in that matter, for that matter. And then of course the people with very high functioning mental capacities, intelligences, with 160 plus or maybe at that level. So this refers to something to do with how well you are able to use your brain in problem solving and dealing with mathematical linguistic issues and patterns in certain ways of testing. So as I said, it allows us to compare one another. And bearing in mind that, there can be differences between different populations, different age groups. And this well-known intelligence test do not measure all kind of intelligences according to some critics. So this is where this becomes very interesting and important. Somewhere in this is from the American Psychological Association. So this is the current definition we have for intelligence itself. Then what is emotional intelligence? We have been dealing with intelligence for many, many decades. And intelligence is one of the best evaluated, tested measures psychologists have up to date. Then we have other tests like, maybe some personality testing, which is fairly reliable and valid. But intelligence, well, that's a given. I mean, we humans have, or the scientists have mastered evaluation of intelligence. However, in 1983 or in early 1980s, someone called Howard Gardner introduced this concept of multiple intelligence. His point was that, well, there have been some other ideas about this, multiple intelligence or different types of intelligences. And they said, well, probably our traditional or well-researched intelligence tests are not really evaluating everything that matters in terms of one's success. And intelligence cannot be just narrowed down to logical, mathematical, and verbal linguistics. There are other things or other parts of intelligence, and they came up with about 8 intelligence, or 7 or 8, and then it keeps on growing. And then periodically, there are new types of intelligences that are being proposed and suggested, which becomes or which makes the concept of intelligence complex and complicated and sort of stretching the yardstick where the critic comes. However, at the moment we talk of things like bodily kinesthetic. If you are a good dancer, can you not be intelligent to to be able to be a good dancer or a gymnast or even an athlete for that matter, you need to know your body. And that, they say, it's some form of intelligence. Music smart. People who can play instruments, maybe sing, and you probably have some skill level at or like some specific intelligence, which we used to call a skill. So they are sort of rebranding and renaming it as music smart or music intelligence, where you will be able to compare yourself with someone like Nilanga and then say, well, those guys are just very low in their music intelligence or musical intelligence, who can't even clap to a song. Then you have visual spatial intelligence, naturalistic intelligence, being able to read the environment, the environment that they're in. And then they specifically speak of interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligences under Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. So it tells us intelligence has different ways of being expressed and experienced. This is a very good way of looking at people with different talents. Of course, if you look at it from a broad perspective, you might call it talents. But not too many people like their child to be with a very low IQ as it's been evaluated traditionally. So school systems, educations were prompt in adopting this system and say, well, let's use multiple intelligence. Not Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has been sticking to the traditional one, but I'm not going to criticize this, so I'm not going to criticize that, the multiple intelligences are given more prominence. We need to understand, okay, these are two different concepts probably. However, let's come to the question of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, my dear friends, it consists of several things. How self-aware are you? Do I feel or do I know what I feel at the moment and the impact that those feelings have on my mood or probably on my behavior also? So that is knowing me. That's very important. So that's part of emotional intelligence. Gardner might probably call it intrapersonal, knowing about own self. Then we have self-regulation. It's not only about knowing yourself, but also about controlling or redirecting the emotional entries that you have or the energy that you probably have, and not acting out, not being like a toddler who would want to throw some tantrum when they are not getting what they want, when they're upset, when they're frustrated. Or maybe some adults, you would notice them and think, gosh, how do you stay with them? How do you deal with them? How do you live with them? It becomes a big question when you cannot regulate yourself or when you cannot regulate your emotions and behaviors and how you deal with it. It's also horrible when you have to deal with someone who is not regulating oneself, not controlling oneself, not using that energy in a more sensible way. Then we have motivation. Utilize emotional factors to achieve goals, enjoy the learning process, and persevere. Now, this is a very important part of emotional intelligence. Knowing what you want, knowing what is around you. To see things as it is properly. and then to persevere, to push yourself, to achieve your goals. Now, these are all about yourself. And then it comes empathy, sensing the emotions of others. Sense how well can you understand other people around you? Or are you like Sheldon Cooper? Are you unable to understand and then feel as to what this might be to the other person? If that is so, well, you might have problems in becoming successful with what you want to achieve, where you want to go. And we are talking about success in life, even in these critical times. You cannot live in another era. This is the era that all of us are living in. This is the era, or this is the generation after 100 years who had to go through a pandemic or an epidemic. And the generation in Sri Lanka who is experiencing the current economical and political conditions. But even in these times, can you thrive? Can you understand yourself and can understand the people whom you are dealing with and make the best out of life? Gain the best for yourself. I mean, as a group of people who manage to end up as end up with a very limited group who want full scholarships for your higher education, though we don't see it like that. So empathy, that's another thing, sensing the emotions of others. And then we have social skills. Just as you understand others, or your ability to understand others, how well can you manage relationships? Your friends, maybe your lovers. How can you lead, inspire your classmates maybe right now? Maybe inspire your club society that you are in. Some of you might get into politics, which is very important. As much as we tend to look down upon the politicians, probably in the current context. But I mean, leaders are needed. We need leaders in academic settings. We need leaders who can deal with others, who can motivate others, who can help others self-regulate and who can regulate own self. Lecturers who can help students to regulate own emotions. And students who can help each other. This is important. This is what we refer to as emotional intelligence. So it's not some fancy term that cannot be achieved. It's not something that you might think in some other ways, such as agreeableness. So whatever you get from an EQ test or an emotional intelligence portion is not agreeableness. Agreeableness is a different concept. But this can be used interchangeably, and people tend to confuse these two. And you might understand other people, but you might not give a damn about, how they feel. And then, I mean, if you look at success, you need to understand that, sometimes if you're too agreeable, you might be earning less. You might be unsuccessful, because what good is it going to do if you're going to be agreeing to everything stupid and horrible that the other person is going to come up with? That is not EQ. That shouldn't be EQ, definitely. So we need to understand emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time. It is about being honest. It's about being honest to oneself to start with. Sometimes I have clients who come and tell me, like, I'm a very honest person, and I've been honest, and I've been like, loyal to my spouse. I've been loyal to my friends. I've been such a nice person, and this is what happens to me. And sometimes they're like, depressed and anxious about as to what is happening around them. And they don't understand as to why the hell am I so miserable? And one question sometimes I am forced to ask them is, how honest are you to yourself? And this is something that I would want to ask each one of you, or maybe ask each one of us, including myself, like, how honest are we to ourselves? Sometimes we can be honest to our friends. We can be honest to our spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, lovers, husbands, wives. But are we honest to ourselves? So honesty is a very important thing. Understanding as to what are my needs? What am I feeling? What am I feeling right now when I go through all these things? What am I feeling? What am I feeling when I try to be respectful and honoring whatever agreement I have to someone who doesn't deserve it? That honesty is important as part of emotional intelligence, understanding where you stand. And then we have emotional intelligence, the misunderstanding that it is sort of being touchy and feely, crying. It's just a matter of, opening and closing a tap probably. You're so overwhelmed with emotions. It's not about being overwhelmed. It's about being aware. And this is something that, sometimes training counselors ask, or managers sometimes come and ask, like, I feel so sad when I hear a story. Fair enough. But you will one day become managers. You'll be, you're supposed to be taking care of different groups of people, and they will have problems. But if you're going to be overwhelmed, by the problems of your friends, the question is, well, are you overwhelmed with something of your own? Are you trying to hide something from your own self? Or is it hidden from your own self and you don't know what the hell's happening within yourself? Sorry about my language sometimes, but then that's me. So I've got to be honest to myself and, use my language as, but no offense, please. Yeah. So it's about being aware of your own feelings and the feelings of other people that you're dealing with. Then emotional intelligence is not about being emotional. It's not about being smart with your emotions. It is about being smart with your emotions. It's not about being carried away and, letting it eat you alive. But keeping them at bay, having that understanding and dealing with it when you have to. Getting necessary help. So this, I think, is my key point when it comes to emotional intelligence, is understanding yourself. Okay, let's forget about the others. Okay, you need to understand others. It will benefit you. But let's start with understanding your own self and getting help when needed. Getting help when that is required. Getting help when you realize that it's eating you alive rather than to put it under the carpet. And that is one mistake that any one of us can do. To try to hide it, try to conceal it from our own self, not from anyone else, not from your spouse, not from your girlfriend or boyfriend, not from your lecturers or students. It's about hiding it from yourself. Let me tell you a story. I like telling this story in many contexts. And this can be applied to many contexts. So this is probably a story that some of you must have heard as little kids, or must have read as little kids. It says there is no such thing as a dragon. Now you must have read the story as a little kid or listened to it as a little kid. Let's look at it as adults today in relation to emotions and emotional intelligence. One day, this little kid, little Billy, woke up in the morning to see that there was this little dragon, maybe a size of a cat, wagging its tail, staring at him. Billy looks at the dragon and, well, it's a dragon, but it's a cute little fellow, strange one, wagging its tail. And so Billy wakes up and like any 4-year-old would do, pats on its head. And dragon is even elated and happy and wags his tail more. And what would a kid do the moment you see a dragon? He runs downstairs and tells Mom, Mommy, there's a dragon in my room. And Mom looks at Billy very seriously and tells us if she really means it. Oh, well, Billy, there's no such thing as a dragon. There's no such thing as a dragon. And she meant it, and she made sure that it sounded that she meant it. He looks at Mom, well, I saw the dragon, but Mommy says that there's no such thing as a dragon. Ask yourself, how many times do you play the role of this mother? To say, no, you don't feel sad. You don't have to feel sad. That self-talk saying, you don't have to show your emotions. You're not supposed to feel like this. Or maybe you tell your friends, you tell your students, you tell your lecturer, maybe not lecturer, but maybe your colleagues, come on, take it easy. There's no reason for you to be sad. There's no reason for you to be angry or frustrated. We deny it. And this is a good time for you to do that. Just as I started saying, well, this is the best time, this best era in the known human history. And once you say something like that, it's very difficult to talk about the problems, the frustrations, the fears you have about what's to come in a few months' time or what you're facing right now. So you squash that ability to talk and accept that there is something that's biting and eating you alive. So Billy says to Mom, okay, let's get back to the story. If not, I'll be letting you down, saying that I'm going to tell you a story. So Billy goes back to his room and tries to get ready. And the dragon is now waiting to be patted on the head. However, Billy tries to pat the dragon on the head and think, well, Mommy said that there's no such thing as a dragon, so it will be fairly stupid for me to try to engage with it or deal with it. So he just tries to ignore the dragon. But now the dragon, it's like another little kid, or maybe if you have a puppy, you try to ignore it and it's going to make a mess there. It's going to get your attention. So Billy managed to ignore but get ready, but it takes more time because this one is not allowing. And then he goes downstairs and now Billy sits at the table, whereas the dragon sits on the table. And normally this sort of a behavior is not allowed at home. However, Billy's mom now can't deal with it and can't say no because she has already made the claim there's no such thing as a dragon. So if there's no problem, there's no solution. So if you deny that the other person, that your spouse is upset, if you deny that someone else is in a problem situation, then or if you deny that you are having an issue, there's no way you can deal or help yourself. And this is going to be a problem. So Billy tries to eat just one pancake or half a pancake, and the dragon backs or gulp down everything. And Billy says, well, that's all I wanted. Because you tend to say, well, I don't want to be happy really. I just want to survive these times. So understanding and accepting the problem is important. And then mommy tries to clean the room, and haha, boy, now the more you ignore the dragon, it becomes bigger. And now the mother tries to clean the house, and it takes way, way more longer because you keep ignoring. And you can do this as a country, you can do this as a family, you can do this as a university, you can do this as a class. To ignore the problem and problem keeps growing, you can do this as a family, as lovers. To say, well, we don't have a problem, it's just we keep fighting every day. Well, that's part of life. Ask yourself again, am I trying to ignore a dragon? Am I trying to ignore something that is getting larger than life and that I cannot handle? This is important. That understanding of your own emotions, what you're going through, is very important. So back to the story. So now Billy and mother, they are like, happy to think, well, there's no such thing as a dragon. However, the dragon keeps becoming bigger, and then you can see the head and the tail are just out of the house. And there are so many households like this, where they try to hide some dragon under the carpet, but everyone else notices it except for the family members. They just keep screaming, shouting, hitting each other, biting each other. You might know some couples in the university who are like, they go on, they fix their relationship, they breaks down, they fix their relationship. They're like some old Morris miners. It breaks down, you fix it, it goes again, but it's just a little bit more noisier than the previous time. That's not going to solve the problem unless you address it as to what is wrong with my life. What am I doing wrong? What am I not understanding about what I want, about my feelings? What am I not understanding about my spouse, my partner, my friends? What am I not understanding about the people I live with, my parents, my children? That understanding is important, because everyone else will notice things that you think you're hiding. And just to add some fun to it, so the dragon is now asleep after having the pancakes, and then it wakes up and sees the bakery van, the chun pan, and I'm hungry, and it goes chasing behind the bakery van with the household. And then the postman notices it, and then in the next one you will see that Billy's father comes home to notice the house is gone. The house is gone. And this sort of things happen when you ignore the feelings and emotions and the problems that you have in your relationships. All of a sudden, one morning you wake up and find out your girlfriend, your boyfriend is gone. You realize that, you don't want to do the degree anymore. 20 years of marriage or 30 years of marriage, and you realize your wife has gone away with someone else, your husband has gone away with someone else, or your children are not doing well, or not in miserable places in life. Because you've been ignoring all the signs, all the issues that they are having problems with you, they are having problems with own self, and you are having problems with them. So this emotion and the understanding of the problem, asking myself, what am I going through? What am I experiencing? This is important. So the problem erupts, and so Billy's father comes and finds the house is all gone, as you can see here, but he asks someone, and then someone points out and say, well, your house went that way with a big dragon. And Billy's father was searching for the house, searching for the family, and it's not very difficult to find. Well, of course, it's a house with a big giant dragon. And Billy's mom and Billy waves at the dad, and dad asks, "What happened? What happened?" And Billy says, "Well, it's a dragon." And mom still says, "Well, there's no such thing as a dragon." But then Billy just cuts on the dragon's head, and the dragon starts becoming smaller. That's the story. And you can see now the dragon is once again in a manageable size. And the mother says, "I don't mind dragons this size. Why did they have to grow so big?" Billy says, "I'm not sure, but I think it just needs acknowledgement." Ladies and gentlemen, so I think when we talk of emotional intelligence, leaving aside all the theoretical contradictions we may have, arguments we may have, whether we have a such thing as emotional intelligence, irrespective of that debate, I think what is important is to know the importance of understanding own emotions and other people's emotions, and knowing to regulate them, control your emotions, help other people control and deal with it, so that you will be in better control of your life. The loved ones will be in better control of your life. And if you don't even remember the name or the term emotional intelligence, or even intelligence for that matter, which is very unlikely to happen, but try to remember the story, the importance of acknowledging the importance of these, of understanding other people and dealing with them, and understanding own feelings as to what am I going through? How am I dealing with it? That is important. That is important, ladies and gentlemen. So this is something that I want you to take home. Or you must be home right now, so do it at your leisure. Ask yourself, so this is called the Wheel of Life on personal well-being. And it asks about how satisfied or how unsatisfied are you with your life? And if I ask you this general question, how satisfied are you with your life or dissatisfied, you will have a score. But then you don't know why you gave that score. Is it because of the living environment, the physical environment that you're living in is horrible? Is it because of your health is deteriorating? Is it because your finances are of no use? Because the inflation and everything that's happening right now? Is it because you feel you're stagnated, you're not growing? Is it because your career, your life as a student is not that great? Is it because of the type of friendships, the family relationships that you have? Is it because of the relationship you have with your lover, the partner? I stress on this because that's a very important aspect of life. So think of each of these areas and try to rate yourself from 0 to 10 and identify what is the area that is messing me up, and what are the areas that is helping me do well, thrive. What are these areas? So knowing and understanding them can be a great first step in dealing in these critical times. And one other important message is that if you are suffering, if you are not doing well, if you are if you feel that things are not going well for you, please seek help. Talk to the student counselors at your university. Talk to someone who might be able to help in your families, among your friends. I mean, that's very important. And if you know of someone, you don't have to be always able to help them. link them with someone, some institution who could be of help. That is another important thing. So understand, help others understand as to the areas that they are doing well. What is good about life? What is bad about life? What is frustrating them? And what is keeping them satisfied and happy? And when you know these, you might be able to work on the areas that are good so that it'll keep you energized and calm and satisfied, and also work on the areas that are not that great. So if you're in an abusive relationship, maybe getting help in terms of what you should do about it. For how long should you be tolerating it? Especially if you're in a relationship that is abusive and not going to change, unlikely to change. But understanding that nature is important for you to pick your parachute and get out of that aeroplane that is in a nose down dive. It's not going to be helpful for you to be in that relationship if it's not going to improve. It may be with your lover, it may be with your friend, it may be with a family member. Just because you've been with them for the last 5 years or 10 years or even more, it doesn't mean that you got to stick to it if things are not going to change. So understanding yourself and taking ownership of your feelings, and then helping them to communicate and helping them to understand each other, helping yourself to understand your partner, your group members, your colleagues is important, so that you can have healthy relationships. That is going to be helpful and especially useful in some of these critical times, critical moments in life. With that note, with that, in a way, homework, with that reflection for you to attend to, I'll just mention on how to increase your EQ. These are just a few tips. Take a personal inventory on as to what is good in your life. So that is what that activity is about. Analyze the things that you need, the skills, the setting. Am I in the wrong place, wrong time? Do I need anything? Do I need to learn something? Identify good friends. Try to get closer to them, or family members for that matter, loved ones. Focus on what you can master in, competencies that will put you at a better place. Identify what is good about yourself and invest on it. And keep practicing. I mean, this is something that you've got to practice. And reflect your practice. Ask yourself, maybe at least every few months at time, what are the areas that I'm doing well? What are the areas that I'm struggling in life? Why am I struggling in this area? And this will eventually put you in the right path, right track. Just as disasters don't happen automatically, it's a path. There are so many times you could fix it, but you don't fix it. In the same way, when you get to the right path, when you find the right path, it'll take you towards success. So walk towards that, learning from the mistakes that you made. That's where the reflection becomes important. And acknowledge the little success stories in your life. Acknowledge when you identify a dragon in your life, so that you can pat it on the head, deal with it, help yourself. Thank you, and thanks for this opportunity. And I hope this was of some use to you guys. Thanks again for joining in at 6 o'clock in the evening after a busy day. Let me wish you all the best. But before we leave, I think hopefully we have time for at least one or two questions if I don't know how it goes by the organizers. Thanks anyway.
Thank you very much, sir. We had a wonderful session. First, I would like to say about that because I think the story about the dragon is a very important story. Then when we are taking decisions, when we are ignoring things, then we have to think twice. I think it was a very important message for all of us. Then I think there are many participants here. Then you can raise your question. I think his professionalism and also his experience will be very beneficial for solving your problems you are facing these days. Then our sir will explain the way of coping with difficulties in this time. So I think I warmly invite all of you, ask question. Then do not consider language as a barrier. You can use your mother tongue. Then there are people who can translate even when you are speaking Tamil. Then am I okay, sir? Nilanga, sir? Yeah, okay. Then I think my dear student, there are many people here. There are our students, and also there are many people from different areas. Then I think you can raise your question and have very effective solutions.
And also I shared my email for whatever it's worth, in case if someone wants to contact. It's not that I will not, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time working as a counselor, but the linking part is very important. So in case if there's anything that you personally need to talk, please feel free to contact. Even if I can't help, I'll try to link you either with a person, with an organization, or with knowledge, where you can find answers. And I think that's something all of us can do.
So if you don't mind, I have a question about. I think it is a thing relevant to our students. Can I ask it?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think nowadays we have experienced that our students and the other people who are available in this session, they are always too much thinking about the examinations. They have different kind of assignments and examinations. They are thinking too much. Then always they are asking us what will be occurred. Can we face the examination? Then is there any difficulties in the questions available in the question papers? Then sir, what kind of answer can be given for those kind of problems from your side, sir?
Well, we have a different solution at the School of Psychology, but I'm not going to talk about that because you're going to fall in trouble. Well, the thing about education stress or examination stress is a common phenomenon, common situation amongst students, because this is how things have been set up right from beginning in Sri Lanka. If you look at scholarships, O-level, A-level, all that. But I think what changes at university level is for you to ask yourself, for you to look at the evidence that is in front of you as to the fact that you are one of the selected, or small percentage who got selected to enter into a Sri Lankan university on a full scholarship. That's a very important thing to remember. Because not too many people get this opportunity. So you are at a certain place who can deal with exams. So that's question number first point to remember, to tell yourself, to understand. And then the other thing, what is stressing you out? For most of the students who are stressed out, when I check their marks, there are students who do well on average. And when you look at the university performance or university examination marks, how much of a big predictor is it in terms of life success? And that is exactly what we are talking about. Emotional intelligence and like understanding what goes on within yourself, which can bite you in your real performance also. So what I would tell students is mainly to be in touch with what happens in your body. What happens in your body in terms of understanding the stress levels. And when you understand the stress levels right at the beginning, try to figure out what you can do about it. There are things that you can do. I mean, pointless asking the lecturer, okay, what questions will you be giving me? That's not going to be the way forward, and that's not going to help you either. But to understand but to ask, how can I manage my stress levels? That is what's going to help you in terms of the overall answer to the question, because exam is something that you will have, and then like I don't know, maybe the senior academics even will talk, like, senior academics are the people who have been doing extremely well probably in their bachelors, in their universities. And how many exam marks did really matter apart from the overall grade when it comes to their life success? And even if they had very good grades, what you need to ask is, okay, is that what really contributed to my overall success? And I think that message to all students would be a very important one. Your university life is way more than the 2 weeks of examinations. And right now, I know most of you must be studying at home. You must be missing out a lot of university activities, life, where you get to meet the good people, bad people, and the jara people in life, the good, bad, and the ugly. That is teaching you a lot. And try to make use of that and look at those 15 weeks as opposed to the 2 weeks of examinations. But at the end of the degree, that's going to matter proportionately less as opposed to the overall education, the university education, the universal education that you will gain. But if you're stressed out, if you feel anxiety, if you feel it, if you're getting headaches, if you can't sleep, if you feel butterflies dancing in your tummy and palpitations, please seek help. That is a different situation. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that dragon. I hope it gives some direction.
Yeah, actually, sir, it is a very good answer. Then I think anyone who can hear those kind of things, they can actually adapt for this kind of situation. And thank you very much, sir. Once again, we have another question from I think from one student, one participant. That student is asking, sir, how can I stop from overthinking of my future? It's over to you, sir.
That's a big question. Why not overthink about your future? No, I'm not trying to get philosophical here. This is something that comes up when you do not see as to what is hindering your progress. I think one thing that you could do is that activity that I gave you. Give it a go. Try that out to see as to what aspect of your life is sort of monstrous, that is frightening. Is it from a financial perspective? Is it from personal growth? Is it from opportunities? Is it from relationships? What are the areas that are really challenging to you? So try to identify them. Because if not, what happens is you tend to overthink, and there's some trouble, there's some horrible monster out there as a future, but you don't know what type of a monster it is. So you've got to understand as to, okay, what are the dimensions of this disaster? What are the dimensions of this, or the nature of this monster? And then the same activity will tell you as to what resources you have, what support you have. And knowing these two will help you with the stress management. So stress is normally something that happens when you have a challenge, maybe the future. This challenge that you feel you don't have the resources, the skills, the knowledge, the ability to face successfully. So the way to get out of this overthinking is to look at, okay, what do I have? What can I harvest on? What can I rely on? And know what are the areas, what are the monsters that I really, or the demons that I really need to slaughter? What are the dragons that I need to slaughter? If you go with the mythology of the dragon, so that you can make jewelry out of it. You can make you can make your future out of these unknown, frightening dragons. So resource identification and identifying the nature of what is frightening you about the future. That will be the starting point. And then if you need support, please reach out to knowledge and people, both.
I think once again, we received a very effective answer for the question raised by one participant. Then I think my dear students and all the participants who are in the session, if you have anything to be clarified, now it is time to raise your all the matters. Then I think this will be very, very beneficial, since we have a very good personality in this field. Actually, Mr. Nilanga Abeysinghe is a very effective person in the society. So once again, I am requesting, if you have things to be clarified, then I can give you another few minutes to raise your question. Yes, I think I'm checking the chat box. There are no things to discuss, I think.
Dinidu, I just have one quick question from
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Mr.
madam.
So I just wanted to ask, now we were talking about emotional intelligence, and you said that it's about awareness and self-awareness and recognizing or giving how do you put it, recognizing that something is actually there. Is that emotional intelligence, or is that where it stops? So what happens afterwards? Is that not getting help? And is it just awareness, or is it something else also?
Thanks for bringing that up again. So it's about the awareness, the understanding, the realizing, okay, this is what I'm going through and this is what I'm experiencing, and so your own and the other person. And then also it's about dealing with it, regulating.
Right. Is it knowing what to do as well, or is it
knowing what to do, doing it, plus, as you said, getting help.
Getting help, right? Getting
help. So I think that when it comes to helping someone, also that like things like look what's happening around me. Listen to whatever feedback I can get and whatever I'm hearing about myself and about what's happening in my relationships, in whatever I'm doing. And then linking to knowledge, linking to other people, so that you deal with the issues that you're having, maybe at a personal level, at an organizational level. So that is in terms of the emotions, in terms of what you're experiencing in life. So thanks for that, bringing us back to this understanding of emotions, which includes dealing with it. And then if you are struggling with the resources you have, getting help definitely. And that's a way of dealing with it.
Yeah, thanks. There are even when it comes to our students, there are students who do realize, they are aware, but they stop at that point. Not students, even us, even most of us, we are aware most of the time, but then we don't know what to do afterwards. We don't know, where to go after that. So maybe we can have another session about different pathways of getting help in the future. So thanks for the answer for that one.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer, and thank you very much, madam, for your valuable question. Then I think once again I'm telling that if you have anything to be clarified, I think I can give you only another 1 minute to ask your question. I think some of you have stage phobia. Am I correct, sir? Because of that, they are not asking. Sometimes when we are doing sessions, they are asking many more questions.
And then it's the timing. We need to acknowledge that also.
Yeah.
It's 7:15, and then, like, I'm sure that has an impact. But yeah, we got to live with what we have.
Yes. Anyway, I think if they don't have things to be asked, I think we can give the opportunity to our Dean Madam, Dr. Kamalika Jayatilaka, who is always giving us these kind of valuable opportunities. Then I would like to be very thankful for our Madam to contact in this kind of valuable personality to address all of us. I think your experience was very beneficial for all of us. So I would like to invite our Dean Madam, Dr. Kamalika Jayatilaka, to do the vote of thanks of this session.
Thank you, Dinindu. Mr. Abeysinghe, thank you very much for your time and your effort this evening, and joining us to do this very fascinating session. I mean, even I have heard about emotional, but I have, beyond the word, I had no idea what it actually means. So your session was inspiring. It was fascinating, I think, for all of us, most of us, and especially our students. So we learned a lot, and I think that was a very practical and more than, this is beyond the curricula. So if I say, I mean, I always emphasize this in our webinar, in our the webinars that we do extra to our curricula, that our university and our faculty focuses on producing or creating holistic people who have skills. Apart from the paper qualifications, we want to produce a generation of students, of citizens who are holistic, who have the right kind of attitudes, values, and the ability and the shall I say, with the skills to face the challenges that they have to face in the coming years, because we are going through critical times right now, and it's going to be worse in the future. When they graduate, when our students graduate, the situation in the country, in the world, will be worse, and they have to be prepared to face those challenges. So this is why, as a faculty, as a university, we try to arrange discussions, webinars that give them a little bit extra to think about what's going on in the world, use their knowledge and apply it to their situations in their context. So this was yet another session that was arranged to promote that. So thank you very much. We learned a lot, and I hope we will be able to work very closely with you in the future as well, and promote this kind of discussion where we have open discussions about things that people go through, the skills that we need to face the challenges we will have to face in the coming years. So thank you very much, Mr. Abeysinghe, again, and we look forward to working with you very closely. And thank you very much, students, for joining us in the evening. I know you all are really tired because you've been in lectures since 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you very much, faculty staff and external faculty staff, for joining us. Thank you. I appreciate your support as always. Okay, have a good evening, everyone, and thank you. Thank you, Dinindu. Okay. And yeah, I have to say thank you very much to Chintani and Dinindu and the Department of Social Sciences for making all the arrangements as usual to do this extra work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam. And also thank you very much, our resource person. And we look forward to work with you again and again, sir. And this wind up the session. Thank you very much all once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, and all the best. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.